Let's get right to our panel now. Jonathan Capehart is an MSNBC contributor and an opinion writer for The Washington Post. Maria Teresa Kumar is an MSNBC contributor and president of Voto Latino. And Steve Kornacki is my colleague and the co-host of The Cycle and a senior writer for TheSalon.com. John, the president's inauguration hasn't even taken place yet, and yet the political punditry is already off and running with a premature nomination for 2016 of one Jeb Bush. But I have to ask you, John, if he's such a brilliant GOP candidate 4 years from now, why didn't he run this time?
Why didn't he run?
Yes.
Why didn't Bob Portman run?
Right.
Why didn't John Kasich run?
Yes.
Because even in 2012, and as difficult as the situation was for President Obama, those heavyweights within the Republican Party saw the writing on the wall that it was going to be a very difficult race for even the best candidate. So they all held their fire for possibly 2016. So that's why you're seeing people talk about Jeb Bush and others. Oh, I left Chris Christie out of that mix as someone people were hoping would run, a strong candidate who would run in 12. That's why you're hearing these names come out now.
Amazing. OK, Steve, Newt Gingrich, a man who certainly knows a thing or two about the ladies, says that Hillary Clinton would be close to unbeatable if she chose to run. So do you think we're looking at Bush versus Clinton in 2016?
I think the picture on the Democratic side this far out, there's a little more clarity to it than there is. There's a lot more clarity to it than there is on the Republican side. If Hillary Clinton were to run in 2016, there are obviously no guarantees in life, no guarantees in politics. But within the Democratic Party, for the Democratic nomination, she will be a front runner like we've never seen before. And I know we sort of said that about her in the run-up to 2008, but she had two liabilities in 2008 that are gone now. One, she was considered, even by a lot of Democrats in 2008, too much of a polarizing figure. You know, can she get independents to vote for her in the fall? Well, what's happened since 2008? The Republicans who had been just relentless critics of her for 15 years in the 90s and then earlier in the last decade, they've rolled over. They've made Hillary Clinton, they've lionized Hillary Clinton as sort of this alternative symbol. This is the Democrat we like. So there's that. And the other thing that really dragged her down in 2008 on the Democratic side was the Iraq War. And I think largely that's forgotten now. So I think her two big liabilities on the Democratic side are gone. And I think what you would see is what you saw with Al Gore in 2000, where all these other prospective candidates look at it and say, you know what, this isn't the time to run.
Steve, you're not mentioning the third prong of the tripod, which is her performance as Secretary of State, which has been formidable.
Yes, absolutely, and it took
what
her
do you mean,
out
absolutely? You didn't even mention it.
Well, I'm just thinking of how formidable she would have been last time without those two factors. If you take them out, even if she was still a senator today, without those two factors, she'd be an overwhelming frontrunner. And yes, you're right. Throw that in, and it's even more.
It's even more. Maria, the Secretary of State, as we've said, has proved to be an outstanding advocate for women throughout her tenure. Is this not the perfect opportunity for her to prove that the glass ceiling can indeed be shattered as far as the highest office in the land is concerned?
Well, I would actually say to Steve's, there's actually the fourth, and that's that the Secretary of State position has actually softened Hillary Clinton. She's actually been made accessible, and precisely because of the work that she's done with women and children, but also she's been able to demonstrate her tenacity, but also her leadership on a global level, where it's no longer is she part of the Bill and Hillary team now, but every time someone mentions Clinton, you first think of Hillary and then you think of Bill. And I think that's actually demonstrates that not only has she been able to become more accessible to the voter, seen as a real diplomat, but more importantly, she's been able to be fierce on her own as a leader.
Right. Jonathan, let me play what former Clinton advisor James Carville said about a possible Hillary Clinton candidacy. Take a listen.
Every Democrat I know says, God, I hope she runs. We don't need a primary. The Democrats want her to run. And I don't just mean a lot of Democrats. I mean a whole lot of Democrats, like 90% across the country.
OK, John, so when you look at the roster of likely GOP candidates, from Bobby Jindal, Rick Santorum possibly, Chris Christie, Marco Rubio, would any of them be able to front up against this formidable candidate if she were to run, Hillary Clinton?
Right. Well, I mean, if the election were to be held right now, no, they'd be grounded into the dirt by her. Her approval ratings are sky high. She's never been this popular before. People who were for her in 2008 when she lost the nomination to President Obama would definitely be there again. So, yeah, they'd have a hard time. But you know what? There are people within the Democratic Party who want to run for president. I'm not quite sure that they would stand down necessarily.
Who do you have in mind, John? Who do you have in mind?
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is rumored to want to run. Maryland Mayor Martin O'Malley is rumored to want to run. There are other people within the Democratic Party who would love for the chance to run for president in 2016. It'd be an open seat. There'd be no incumbent running. And so if Hillary Clinton is going to run for president, from their perspective, they want her to make that decision sooner rather than later so that they can get their apparatus in place. Because unlike her, they can't just turn a latchkey and have everything, fired up and
millions
ready to go.
Of dollars, support networks, and so on.
Yep.
Steve, hasn't this actually been a total transformation in the life of the Clintons? Because you were referencing her success, Hillary Clinton's success, but Bill Clinton has now transformed his standing. I mean, he is now a global figure too, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also just their standing within the Democratic Party. The thing that really struck me this summer was comparing how the Clintons were treated by the entire Democratic convention this summer versus 2008. And you remember in 2008, there was still a lot of lingering hard feelings on both sides, really, about how that Obama-Clinton primary had gone.
Which was a tough primary.
Absolutely. And, the star of the convention this summer, it was Barack Obama's convention, but Bill Clinton was the star of that convention. And Bill Clinton's job formally at that convention was to nominate Obama for a second term in 2012. I really believe at the end of that speech, if he'd said, hey, while we're at it, can we nominate Hillary for 2016 as the successor? I mean, by acclamation, that place would have done it. The change between the mood in 08 and 12 toward the Clintons was amazing, Yeah.
Maria, the president dominated Mitt Romney among Latinos. Can Hillary count on the same level of support, especially if the Republicans, for example, were to run, say, Marco Rubio?
Absolutely. I mean, if Hillary Clinton, when she ran against President Obama, actually won the Latino vote 2-1. But more importantly, a lot of Latinos are going to remember how prosperous they were under a Clinton administration versus a Bush administration. So not only would they definitely fall in line behind Hillary Clinton, but also let's not forget that Latinas outvote their male counterparts. So they'll be leading the charge in the polling booth in favor of Hillary Clinton, no doubt.
I cannot wait. I'm already licking my lips at the thought of it. Jonathan Capehart, Maria Teresa Kumar, and Steve Kornacki, thank you all.